Hello, my name is Amy Guarino, and I will be auditioning for the role of absolutely exhausted millennial. Wait, am I a millennial? I used to think I was a millennial, but I think what I'm learning now is that I'm a zillennial, because I was born like right on the borderline of Gen Z and millennial. Honestly, it doesn't matter. The fact that I was born in a year that starts with a 19 already makes me like impossibly old to most of my students. But yeah, welcome to my humble abode, aka this studio that I rented to record auditions. Well, not to record auditions, plural, record exactly one audition, but I had to sing 2 arias back to back in a single take, like the whole thing, not cut, not nothing. You could go and get a sip of water like between them, but like the whole thing had to be in a single take. I actually had to do something similar last year because there was like this consortium with a bunch of different opera companies and they all kind of combined to make all the requirements the same, whatever. If you were in it, you know what I'm talking about. But last year was harder because I had to do it with tracks because we were like fresh out of lockdown, so I wasn't exactly going to be able to do it with a live pianist. But today I was able to do it with a live pianist and it actually went really, really, really easily. Like we literally got it on the first try, like in a single take. And I was kind of worried about that, just mostly because like of the like sing 2 arias in a single take thing, like with no cut in the middle. And I mean, I've been singing both pieces for a while. One of them I was supposed to do the entire role and then Corona. But yeah, I got them done really easily and I feel a lot better now. I also feel a lot better because I'm not in, fancy like audition clothes anymore. I'm in, normal people clothes because it is freezing outside. It's actually snowing this morning. But I'm in a sweater and really like fleece leggings and socks. I'm not wearing shoes. I don't really like to wear shoes, but like society says I have to wear shoes. So my shoes are over there. If I lean over, you can see like a pile of my crap that I have to clean up before I leave. I rented this room for 2 hours thinking it was gonna be a lot harder to record that audition, but then we got it on the first try, and now I have this room for a whole other hour, and it was kind of expansive, so I intend to get my money's worth. And I was gonna practice, and I did for like 30 seconds, and then my body said, please, ma'am, you need to stop like effective immediately. This whole going back to being like a regular performer thing has just been weird. I mean, that whole thing kind of started in the summer. There's a vlog that like, by the grace of God, maybe I'll actually finish editing this week. But there's a vlog from a summer program that I did back in June where it was like my first time being in, in-person coachings and whatnot, and my first time performing in front of a live audience in a long time. It's weird because I've been rehearsing consistently for the past 2 years now, almost 2 years. But despite that, I was in a bunch of productions and none of them actually went to completion. Right before lockdown, I was supposed to be in Swear Angelica. It was like a dream role. I was singing the title role and again, dream role. And then that was postponed to October of 2020 and then ultimately canceled. And then at the same time, I was supposed to play the witch in Hansel and Gretel for this outreach program. It would have been my 3rd time playing the witch. I love playing the witch in Hansel and Gretel, y'all. It is so much fun. It's so different from like everything else that I sing because it's just like, it's nasty, it's wild, it's just like bizarre. I feel like most of my rep is either like my character being cheated on or dying or like being cheated on while dying. But anyway, so yeah, I was supposed to do Sora Angelica, I was supposed to do Hansel and Gretel. Those were like immediately lost to lockdown. Then I was supposed to be in A Little Night Music and I rehearsed it for, I want to say 2 months, and then there was kind of an issue with the rights. We weren't going to be able to live stream it, but obvious at that point we weren't going to be able to have it with a live audience. So there was literally no way for us to do it. So I think we wound up doing it for each other on Zoom / Jamulus. Jamulus is like a service that lets you make music in real time with people through the computer. So we did that. And then I was supposed to be in La Rondine as Magda. And that show, I feel like it died like 5 times, but that's all I'm gonna say about it. So yeah, I've been rehearsing and coaching things and learning music for this whole time and just nothing's ever come of it. And so now it's audition season. I've been putting in a lot of applications. I've been going on in-person auditions. I feel like there was a point in the lockdown where I was missing performing so much that I even missed auditioning, which like I almost get, like I was just missing working towards things at all. I'm being stabbed by my necklace, okay. But like I take that back, audition season is hell. And so now that like my performing life is going mostly back to whatever you want to call normal, I don't know if that's the word I'd use, but something resembling regular. I'm not doing everything on Zoom is what I'm getting at. Now I'm just really, really craving actually being in rehearsals and actually being in a production, just doing the thing. Like I love the process. I love being in rehearsals as much as I might have complained about it when I was in college. And I mean, like honestly, kind of rightfully so, because when I was in college, sometimes we'd rehearse 6 hours in a day on top of, having classes and work and stuff. But like, I miss the process of it. I miss it. I miss it a lot. Like performing is fun and like, being in front of an audience is fun, but like, I miss that interaction. And there's other things I miss about performing that are just like obscure and kind of random, but like I miss them. Like I genuinely miss coming home from like a really long tech rehearsal or a dress rehearsal or a performance. Like you're coming home from something at like midnight or 1 or 2 in the morning and you're starving, but you don't have the capacity to cook anything and it's way too late to order something. Even in New York City, like you can't order takeout at midnight. But anyway, you're starving and you need to eat something, but like you don't want to cook anything, so then you just wind up like eating a bowl of Cheerios in total silence while staring into the void. Or not that, but like coming home and just going on an absolute like feral zombies hunt for food. Like this one time a few years ago, I was in an opera and we were rehearsing and performing on the Upper East Side. Our rehearsal ended at 10 p.m., which is not, you know, it's not early, but it's not super late. And so it was a double bill of 2 one-act operas, but I was only in the first of those 2 one-act operas. Like some people were in both and some people were in just one. I was in just one, but everybody who was just in the first one-act opera, like we all had to stay because they were gonna do notes at the very end. So I had to stay and sit there for like another, I think it was like another hour and a half, but I didn't have food with me and I couldn't leave the theater to get food. And there was nowhere in the building that I could get a meal or even get food. Like I think there were vending machines, but like I think they were too far away. I don't remember. I was starving. I was trying to stave off starvation with a cough drop. Pro tip, that actually doesn't work at all. It actually makes it just so much worse for some reason. But then when I finally got released, like we did notes, we finally get sent home. I'm walking down Lexington Avenue to go to the train and I'm like, I'm gonna just pick up something. I'll pick up a sandwich, I'll pick up a slice of pizza, I'll pick up something, and then I will go on my merry way home. And little did I know that I had found like the one strip of all of New York City where everything was closed by 10 p.m. The only establishments where I could have gotten food at that hour were Duane Reade and the Cupcake ATM. But anyway, that night I was so hungry and it was like I could not wait to get out on the other side of the train to get food. I was just ravenous. I was starving because I hadn't eaten in hours and I had been rehearsing and whatever. So I just went into Duane Reade and I bought myself like a giant bag of Cheetos and I just ate it standing up on the F train the whole way home. So like in that respect, I feel like there are like a few things about performing virtually that are like a little more comfortable. Like yeah, if you're in a virtual rehearsal or you're in a virtual performance and you're not up at that moment, like you can just walk down the hall to the kitchen and get a snack or something. Or if you're tired, like your bed is right there or your couch is right there or some soft surface for laying your body on is right there. So that is another thing, like another obscure thing that I miss about performing and just rehearsing live is like the nights where you're so tired but there's just nowhere to lay down or there's nowhere to just like be a vegetable. But there's like this phenomenon where like the more tired you get, the more that just flat surfaces feel heavenly to lay down on. I feel like there were some really long rehearsal nights when I was in college where I would just get so tired and then I would just like lay down on a folding table and you couldn't tell me that shit wasn't a Tempur-Pedic. And don't get me wrong, performing in front of a laptop is objectively terrible and I hope it dies in a hole as soon as possible. Though performing at home, like you do get to get ready like in the comfort of your own home. Like you don't have to be pressed up against like 30 other people in a tight dressing room. If you have ever been in a dressing room or backstage at any venue of any sort, congratulations. You don't need to worry about what's in the COVID vaccine. You honestly could probably go outside and just lick the side of a street lamp and be fine. Though, okay, I do miss that though. Like I do kind of miss being like really cramped in a dressing room. I more miss like the ambiance of it. Like I miss getting ready with everybody else and like blasting Beyonce. Like we used to do that at Copeland all the time. Like we would play Slay music just super loud. Actually, now that I think of it, I'm like genuinely sad that the lockdown happened when it did and that just Corona happened when it did and that we never got to like have a dressing room pump up session to WAP. I'm really sad. I never thought of that. Now I'm sad about it. But anyway, to kind of go back to like the original reason I'm even in this room, like auditioning virtually, I've only had 2 virtual auditions this whole season. I had one that was live, like virtual but live, like I did it via Zoom and that was no, it was the week before last. And then I had this one where I'm just submitting like my second round video, my second round audition. So my audition is pre-recorded. I know in the musical theater world that self-tapes are very common. It is just not the thing we do in opera. But also for musical theater, like most of the time you're submitting like a 16 to 32 bar cut or like a 1-minute monologue or like a short, you know, the sides, whatever the sides are for the audition. So it's not nearly as long. Like you don't have to sing your face off for like a 5-minute aria. And honestly, auditioning is already kind of like psychological torture. But then when you add like Zoom or like recording technology into the mix and just pray praying that nothing explodes. It ratchets the psychological torture up to like jigsaw level. Do you want to play a game? No, I just would like to work sometime before the rapture, if that's okay with you. And then performing virtually, it just doesn't hit the same way as doing it live. I mean, for the obvious reasons, but then for like stupid reasons. Like when you're performing virtually on Zoom or whatever it may be, you don't get to watch a conductor accidentally yeet their baton into the cello section. That's a real thing that happened when I was singing Britain's War Requiem. We came out of one movement, he gives the cutoff, and the baton just sets sail for the cellos. He tried to save it, but it just rocketed it farther that way. Though I will say, the one thing that I will miss about just like the whole virtual thing is I will miss seeing people's animals. I don't have any fur babies of my own. I live through everybody else's. I mean, well, I kind of get to do that with like my students' fur babies. Like I get to see their animals because I teach in their houses. So like I go and teach them, and I also see like my fur friend. Though I do say I would love if we could just, as a society, adapt a practice of having rehearsal cats. I had a coaching once at our opera director's apartment, and one of her cats was like sitting at my feet for a good portion of the time when I was singing, and it really is really good for moral support, okay? And speaking of rehearsals, though, one of the genuine benefits of rehearsing virtually is that basically never in the past nearly 2 years now have I been like sitting around in rehearsal for really any amount of time. And by that, I mean like I feel like with virtual, people like run out of steam just quicker, and also like it's just easier to, oh my god, the people in the next room are playing their music really loud and it scared me. Anyway, I feel like people run out of energy quicker on Zoom, and so like there is just kind of a motivation to get through things quicker and also not to schedule people at times when they're not needed. But yeah, in the past like 2 years now, I have not had a single thing where I was waiting around for hours for them to get to my scene or get to my piece, and then we don't get to it, or like they finally get to your thing and then they call break, or then like they finally get to your thing and then the rehearsal ends. And not to say like, again, like I miss just the ambiance of being in a rehearsal. Like I would probably gladly sit around and do not a damn thing for 5 hours just sitting in a rehearsal room at this point because I miss it so much. But I remember back like sophomore year of college when we were doing Leonard Bernstein's Mass, the rehearsals would run so long, and there was like this one specific point in the show where we knew that if we got like, we would always get stuck on it. It wasn't even a part that I was in the liturgical choir. For context, Leonard Bernstein's Mass requires, I believe, about 200 or 300 performers, and they're organized like street chorus, street band, orchestra, like pit band, I guess, and then like liturgical chorus, there's a children's chorus, there's a lot of people. And so there was one movement where the street chorus would do it, and if we got up to there by like, and we only had like an hour of rehearsal left, we knew like, okay, that's it. We are not going to sing or do anything for the rest of this rehearsal. I think with the show running at full speed, we would have had like a 10-minute break in the action. But obviously, you know, that gets slowed down with like rehearsal where you're staging and tweaking things. But we just knew like, okay, we got to here. We are not doing anything because we're gonna get stuck for an hour. But they wouldn't let us leave the stage for some reason. Like most of the time they wouldn't let us leave the stage. So we'd just be sit there like staring into the void like, please let me go. Like I have homework. So actually what we would do is we would just like started sneaking our homework on stage because we're like, well, they're not gonna release us, and they're not gonna send us off stage. They're not gonna release us from rehearsal. So we're gonna just like sneak our theory homework on stage and just like, you know, put it in like our score, like open the score and like put the paper on top and just like, yep, no, totally hear what you're talking about. And I'm like, you know, analyzing a chord or something. Another thing I haven't had to do in 2 years is like that uniquely choir thing where you spend like the better part of an entire rehearsal rehearsing how to stand up and sit down. If you've ever been in a choir of any kind, you know what I'm talking about. It especially kind of comes into play when you're doing oratorio stuff where there are literal sit and stand cues, but you'll just spend an inordinate amount of time on sitting properly and standing properly. Oh, you sat too loudly. You got up too loudly. You weren't together. Oh, we have to have two people. Actually, when I did Leonard Bernstein's Mass, me and another girl in the alto section who were on the ends, we had the job of eyeballing each other before stand cues and before sit cues so we could kind of be like the signal to sit down. I remember that. But yeah, I'm exhausted. I'm starving. I just dropped my lip gloss. That's cool. And yeah, good chat.